Hello and welcome to the Rock Your Voice podcast. Vocal coaching tips that will transform your voice, interviews that will inspire, industry guidance, and so much more. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. Today on the Rock Your Voice podcast, I am joined by the wonderful couple, Aaron and Victoria Goodvin. We're going to be talking about music publishing, how that all works, how to get into those writing rooms. I'm always asked about that. And also we're going to learn a bit about the difference between being the front person, being a singer, versus being behind the scenes as a songwriter and making that mailbox money, or both. Now, if you are an emerging singer, songwriter, or performer, one of the three or all of the three, you want to stay tuned for this because there's some exciting news coming. I'm going to give you a spoiler right now. Aaron and Victoria are going to be the guest coaches at the next Rockit Retreat, which will be in Invermere, beautiful British Columbia in Canada, July 2025. So get your publishing questions ready, get your new songs ready, because this is a team that you want to be working with. I will stop talking about it for now. There's plenty more information in the show notes if you want to come join us in Canada next summer and get to work with Victoria and Aaron. And let me know if you have any questions. But without further ado, here is my conversation with Aaron and Victoria Goodvin. I hope you enjoy. I'm really excited to have you both here because it's not just on the podcast that you're going to be joining me, but you're also going to be joining us for the very special retreat that we're going to be hosting in Invermere in July 2025. Someone's had so much coffee today. I've been up since 4 o'clock.
That's okay. I was just thinking about how I wanted more. So I'm just going to feed off your energy.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And also, I'm just really, really excited about this. So you guys are going to be joining us in Invermere in July next year. And the reason for this is because you two are literally like the musical power couple right now. And I love it because you both bring exactly what my clients need and what the artists that I work with are looking for, because you two have created something so special. And we're going to dig deep into that in a second. But for those of you who have been following the podcast, you've probably heard that I think I've had a couple of episodes now with Aaron, one just recently too. So you can learn all about his background there if you don't already know. But this is a first for me to be chatting with Victoria. So let's start with you. Let's kind of look at what you're up to right now and how you got to that point. So you're more in the sort of behind the scenes publishing kind of stuff.
Yes. So I can kind of start, I guess, from the beginning, if you will. I'm from North Carolina originally. I have family here in Tennessee, and I've always been just a really big fan of music. And I don't know, I was just obsessed with pop culture, and like I would always, search for the best songs and kind of create. It was during the iTunes era, so I would buy all the songs that and I was obsessed with digging down a hole of new artists, new songs, and everything like that. But whenever I was looking for schools, part of why I wanted to come to Tennessee was my family, and the other part was that I knew I wanted to do something creative. I didn't know where I could fit into this world, but I saw that Belmont had a music business program. And it just seemed like a perfect fit. And my mom was like, yes, absolutely, let's do it. So did that, and just kind of felt like it ended up moving towards publishing. I think a lot of people I didn't know what publishing was.
Right.
A lot of people were telling me, like, if you like songs, you'll like publishing. That's more about the song. So,
right.
And so kind of blindly started going in that direction, got a few internships. Don't know if that really gave me a good indication of what I was actually going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. It was just helping out whatever they needed. And then I met Aaron, and actually at the time I met Aaron, and he was working with a guy named Bart Butler. And between the two of them, I probably would not be where I am today without either of them, because they both gave me a vote of confidence whenever I felt like I was like, what am I doing here? Why, I still don't know, if I can fit into this. And so Bart is with John Party's producer. He was producing Aaron at the time, and he used to be a publisher back in the day. And he would just tell me all these wonderful stories, and I was like, I want to work with you. So that's really how I got started. And I ended up, it didn't happen that magically. It took a minute for us to
Yes.
actually get to working together. But long story short, we did end up working. I did end up getting to work with Bart at his company at the time called Song Factory, which is now Riser House. And that was really my gateway into the whole music industry. And even though Aaron was never my official writer, the two of them wrote so much that I really handled a lot of his stuff in the beginning too. And so yeah, it was a great. They really like showed me the ropes and how everything worked, and they did a great job because they are two of the hardest working people that I know. And it really
Yes.
set the bar high for everyone else that I worked for after,
Love
because
it.
I thought everybody worked that way. I don't know why. I just, and then I started working with other people. I'm like, oh, I'm really having
Mm,
to pull this stuff out of
yeah.
but yeah, so that's how I got started. And then I moved around a little bit, and yeah, mostly, I've done some other stuff, but the publishing has been the main through line through
Right.
it all. So,
That is awesome. And so for those, and I know this is a not probably just one other episode, but a whole other series, but if you could kind of touch on and explain just very briefly what publishing is, that would be
yes,
fantastic.
yes, absolutely. So publishing is uh the the basically
It's a big
as a
one.
publisher, I'm like, where do we start here? There's so much. Um, as a publisher, we work with staff songwriters or artists, and those songwriters write songs every day. And once those songs are written, we decide, hey, who do we think this should be pitched to, and we go and pitch those songs,
I
and
love
then
that.
we own a portion of those songs.
Hmm.
um, so I feel like that was a poor job of explaining it actually, but yeah. So basically, my day to day job would look like we hire some writers. I book their calendars. I set them up with new writes, new people, um, writers that I think are gonna be the best suited for them, and also get the
Yes.
best song out of the room. And then hopefully we do.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully we can make something happen with that song, whether it's with an artist that was in the room with them, or maybe we say, hey, if we get a demo on this, we can make it sound all pretty and good. We can get this cut on Luke Combs. I don't know,
Love it.
whoever. So yeah, that's basically what it is.
That's a really really good concise explanation, and then I know listeners are going to be like leading right into the legalities of it, so that's a whole other episode that I have. So go check the other episode out on rights and royalties and publishing and all of that kind of stuff. But again,
I
this
just recently tried to explain that in an email, just breaking some stuff down for people. And man, I was like, how do I take 10 years of
mm-hmm,
what I've learned and put it in a very short email? And there's always going to
yes,
be questions, but
Mm.
it's so, I swear it took me so many, like all of that time to actually fully get an understanding where I could explain it. Because
yes,
so I remember being in coffee shops, and you never know in Nashville who you're sitting beside. And when
yes.
somebody would ask you questions, you're fumbling, you're trying to answer, you think and I'm just like, God, I hope the person beside me is not like the big wig, like no, like, and is like,
Yes.
this girl does not know what she's talking about.
And the
But
fun thing is that it's also like the way that deals are done. Everything's different for everyone as well. Like things change. Like it depends on the situation, the deal, and everything. So it's a wild world out there. But no, that was a really good explanation, and it's really. I'm really glad that you explained it the way you did and set it up, because I have so many artists that I work with who are always asking me. Actually, there's a lot of really great singers and writers that I work with who don't necessarily want to be the front person, and this is why I love having this conversation with you and Aaron, because Aaron is such a front person through and through, like loves being the guy. And I have a lot of artists who are great singers, great songwriters, and they're like, how do I be a staff writer? How do I get a publishing deal? How do I do that? So that's a
yeah,
question that comes up a lot. And again, if you're listening and this is something that you're interested in, like I said, the retreat, this is going to be the place to be, because you will have the
yeah,
hardest working frontman and also a fantastic publisher on hand. So yeah, but
Yeah, no, if I can speak to that. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people come at it from that perspective because that's what you see. You see the front man, and that's what people want to be. They want to be the guy or the girl on stage, singing the songs, and I think that's pretty natural to like want to be that. But the cool thing about like publishing and being a staff songwriter is that if it's just, I feel like so many people don't know about it, and then they realize how much of a strain, like, life on the road is not easy, and certainly life in the spotlight is not easy.
Yes.
And it's not everyone can be in the spotlight. So the fact that there's this job that some people may not even know about, where like you can do all that and you can get mailbox money.
Yes.
If you're good at it, you can get paid to write songs, and then when those songs do something really cool, you get checks in the mail, and you get to stay home, and you get to be with your kids, and just and you get to make your own schedule. Songwriters have the best schedule in the world. Like it's wild. So I think that's a really cool part about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Aaron, were you always writing your own music from the get-go, Aaron, or were you having songs pitched to you, or how did that work for you?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I've never been on a podcast where the first 7 minutes I didn't talk. That was such a gift. I just appreciate it.
It's quite incredible.
I enjoyed that too.
Yeah, and V loved it. And I was like, there's so many times I want to jump in, but it wasn't my question, and I can't.
Front man.
He's never at a loss for words, so
I just really had to point that out. But who better to be talking than my lovely wife? She's awesome. So I started writing I didn't even like, I guess like when I first started writing songs, like it was like I was learning how to play guitar, and I was learning how to play all these other songs, and then I realized that like a good way to like meet girls was to be able to write them songs. And I was like, this is so cool. But then I was a liner note kind of junkie, where I would go to every Tuesday. My mom would drive me to voice and guitar lessons in Grand Prairie. Nice. And I would, and we would pick up a new CD. Like I was very ADD and very ADHD. So I had like, as long as I, didn't throw a temper tantrum that week, I got to buy, a new CD. So we would go in every Tuesday, and I would buy whatever new country CD was out, and then I would read these liner notes. And I started noticing that there was these songwriters writing songs for artists that like nobody knew who they were, nobody knew, and I was like that. I was so intrigued by that.
Right.
But like songwriting for me was just a means to be able to play live. I was like, dude, it was so cool for me to be able to like, oh, I wrote this song and now I'm playing it live. Like I thought that was so cool. And so for me, on the songwriting aspect of it, it's really just kind of like a piece of what I do that I seem to have a knack for. And I found out, because I loved singing and playing live, that was it. But I found out when I wrote my own songs, and for whatever reason, like people were like, these songs are better than what most people write. You know what I mean? Like at my age or wherever I was at. And I was like, cool. Like I didn't really know or care like that much. I just thought it was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, and then, but I really got a lot of respect when somebody's like, did you write that? And I was like, yeah. And they were awesome. Like, oh, and so I found out pretty early on, like oddly enough, like I was talking about this the other day, like when I first started, I kind of broke in as a songwriter. I love to be on stage, but I found out real quick that maybe my way to being on stage was to be writing songs. And I met a guy named Miles Wilkinson, and he saw that and was like, started bringing me to Nashville when I was, 20, 21. And he would drive me around in his green van, which looking back now, I'm sure that looked very strange.
This sounds a little sketchy.
It was so strange. Like he picked me up in this little green van, and he would drive me to all these co-writes, and I was like this young. Anyway, but I wrote a lot of songs and learned how to write songs, and like started learning to write songs in Nashville. And I found out like really quickly that like this was going to be my way into the industry, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all looking for a different way just to get in,
Yeah.
just to be accepted. And so then when I started getting some cuts and started getting some stuff, like it all really started to change for me. So
that's so awesome. So awesome. So what's kind of like the flip side if you are not a writer, but you love being the front person? What's the game plan for getting the songs?
Also, I missed part of your first part, which I was going to touch on, but the first, like I cut an outside song, and I tell like a lot of we have a company called For the Record, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, but like I think I was 18 or 19. No, I might have been older than that. I don't know. No, I was definitely 21. Anyway, doesn't matter. But I cut an outside song that I didn't write, and so I was writing with a guy. I'm working with a guy named Daryl Burgess, who's a Canadian, lives in Nashville, has had some hits, some really big hits for Aaron in Canada, and then had some really big cuts. I loved his style, I loved his writing, but he had a song called "Something About a Girl," and I just thought the song was a big hit, and I cut that song. And I put it out to radio, and it literally didn't really do very well at all. Like on secondary in Canada, it did really well, but like it got played on my hometown radio station in Grand Prairie like a hit record,
Okay.
And so I now had something in that area that people were like, that song is awesome, and whoever that artist is great too.
Nice.
And so what it did is it sort of upped my level of who I was as an artist in where it got played. And so and that's like such an important thing that has to happen. Like it's no longer like, if you don't like to, like as an artist, if you don't like to write songs, I'm like, don't.
Yeah.
Because like if it's not something that you're super passionate about, but you want to be the front person, like there are literally thousands of songwriters like me that have been in this town in Nashville for more than 10 years that guaranteed have 10 massive songs in their catalog that nobody's touched yet. And so it's about, there's a lot of it is timing, a lot of it is like when the song comes around, whether it's available, like there's a lot of that. And then there's also a lot of like, who's this artist that's cutting it? Like they want to vet it because they want their songs to, be cut by, something that's going to happen. Right. And so I'm like totally of the mind of like, if you don't have like a severe passion for writing songs, Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney, George Strait are three of the biggest artists that we have in the world, and a lot of them didn't write those songs, like those big songs. I always make the example of like Lee Brice is a great songwriter who writes most of his stuff, but he did not write "I Drive Your Truck." He just recognized a great song, and he cut that song, and because of that, he can charge like more money than we even see in a year. Because he has that song. So it's like, that's the kind of thinking that we try to like, that we try to tell, the artists that we work with. Is like, if you don't want to write it, that's fine. If you want to write it that's great too, I
mean, I would push back a little and say, go for it, try to be a part of it. Well, not in every case, but I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't say like don't write at all, mainly because the world of songwriting has just changed so much, and I do feel like a lot of artists are in the room. But I will say, if that's not your strength, maybe let the writers in the room take, but like, your role then becomes, and I think always as an artist, if you're cutting a song for yourself, your role in that room is to say, I wouldn't say that, but also you're bringing things to the table that you would say, ideas, hooks, and maybe you're not going to sit there and like write the whole song. You're going to lean on those songwriters, which is what co-writing is there for. But I mean, just bring.
No, you're right. Like in today's world, it is more modern to be like to.
But I think what you're saying is, once the songs are finished and you're going into cut, if you're thinking about going to radio with something or whatever that opportunity is for you, don't worry about taking something that you've written, because if that's not the strongest song, take the strongest song. So you don't have to be a writer on it, because it can. It's all. I'd still think it does come down to the song, and you want it to be true to the artist and speak to your, whatever your brand is, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, it's about having a great song.
Yes, yes. And that will open so many doors for you to share maybe your stuff further down the road that's a bit more just you. It's interesting because and there's again other episodes on the podcast with a gentleman, you may even know him, Robert Ott. He hosted 97 South, and I did a retreat down there. I partnered with them, and Jesse Alexander and Tim Nichols were both part of that, and so it was great to have like clients just see, like, this is where I Drive Your Truck came from, and this is where Live Like You Were Dying comes from, because people and also we put that pressure on ourselves. It's like, okay, so you want to refine your performance, you want to refine your vocals, you want to refine your stage persona, and that's enough as it is for a singer to be maintaining, right?
It's a lot,
let alone the pressure of like, and now you got to go write a #1 smash to back up what you're doing. So it is okay to separate the two. It doesn't make you lesser of an artist, or a performer or what have you. It's the same as, say, I work a lot with Jess Moskaluk. Like, she doesn't play the guitar. I have a lot of female artists who are like, but I don't play guitar. Am I going to be okay as a country female singer? It's like, of course you are. Like, just be.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's even better because then you're doing more of the entertainment. Like, like for me, it's always like, I know if I put my guitar down, which I do, it's like that's a whole other moment of the show.
Exactly.
For me, it's a big part because I write these songs and I'm banging away on the guitar when I write them. Some of those songs I have to, like, I feel like I need to play on, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like if I put my guitar down, now I can really entertain as opposed to, and I think they're all good things. It's like whatever you can bring to the table. It's like, I think all of those things are great things, but totally. I think so many people get wrapped up in like, well, this person does, and I used to do it, and almost to a crippling fault.
Right.
That, man, maybe I still do. But it's like if I see somebody doing something that I'm not doing, I'm like, I all of a sudden feel like inferior. Like I feel like I can't. Like, it's like, oh, I'm not a good enough artist or whatever. It's like we talk about it all the time. I mean, Stapleton is not going to run around the stage like Garth Brooks, but he's amazing. And then Garth is going to run around, and that's amazing too. So I think like all these artists need to focus on their strengths, and it's really about doing the thing that you do really well and doing it well. Like that's really what it's all about.
Exactly.
If I, you had asked how to approach it from an artist standpoint, and everything you said, is valid. But I also wanted to kind of bring up that we've worked with a lot of artists who have been like, hey, what's my next step? Or what do I do now that the music's out? And I know it's not an answer that anyone really wants to hear, but it happens so different for every single person that we just can't tell you what the next step is going to be. I think it's like, if you have a burning passion for doing this, then you just keep going, and the path illuminates itself.
Yes.
And that could be, a lot of young artists like, I need a manager. And it's like, no, you don't have anything to manage.
Right.
So you don't need a manager unless you have somebody who's going to meet you where you're like, if, maybe you two want to figure it out together and they help you from the ground. Like, okay, but you don't need a big manager because they've got other things to do, and they have clients that they actually need managing because they've got so much at that point in their career where they need another, they need somebody to help.
Yes.
Now, maybe, so maybe you don't need a manager first. Maybe you get, you go out and you play shows, and maybe you need a booking agent first. Right. Maybe that's the first step. Maybe it's through publishing. Maybe you get a publisher first. Like these are all ways. Like I say, like if things start to come to open up, if you see a path, like just like Aaron saying that songwriting might be his way in, then follow that, because you never know where that could take you. If you think, like I say, if it's your live show and some booking agent comes in, I think I can get you on these gigs, like follow that path. It happens different for every single person.
So.
And it's all about champions, right? And it's like
could be TikTok, could be radio,
could be TikTok, could be radio, could be anything. Like I think like one of the things that a lot of artists get hung like on that management piece or that agent. Like there's so many people that are like, I have a song out now, I need an agent. Now it's like, just because you have a song out doesn't mean that you need an agent. What it means is that you need to make that song go. You need to do everything in your power. Whether it's posting, and most of the time it's posting. I hate to say it, but like, and posting is such a weird thing because you think all your people are seeing it and they're not. Like I've got this East Coast tour where I've been posting about it for for a month, and there's people now that's just, how did I not know that you were coming to so it's like you have to continue to post. It's like that's just how the market is being, and trust me, you want all the power. Like I think a lot of people are like, well, if I just had help I could give it away. And I was like, yeah, but you have to have something to give away.
And all of these people, all these other people that come into your world, eventually they want to find you working. They don't want they're not looking for somebody. And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned in publishing, is that don't just sign somebody because you think they're talented. If they don't have the work ethic, then you're going to be like fighting an uphill battle and
pushing a rock up a hill.
Work. I want to find somebody who is like bringing things to the table, who's already doing it for themselves. And you look at them. If I can look at them and go, you're going to do this with or without me. That's the person I want to work with.
Right.
Absolutely. I love that.
And I have one more thing to add. Like one of my favorite things that I know I get things pop in my head and I get so excited. But the other thing I want to add is that my manager, the favorite quote that I've ever got from my manager. Not a lot of people know this, but when I was on Warner Canada, I was promised 2 singles. Right. I got the first one out. It went to like 48. And then we had like one more chance. At that one more chance point, I had left the manager that I was with, which like I was involved in Johnny Reed and I was with all of that. And I was really heavily focused on, and I was always heavily focused on breaking in the US.
Right.
And so I never really had planned to break in Canada, but that second single, Woman in Love, came out. I didn't have a manager until that song was top 10.
Okay.
So like another manager. And the only reason I got the manager was because I had the top 10. Right. Because like it was like, oh, now we've got some stuff to work with, and we've got an artist who has a hit. It's not just about having a song out. It's like you have to have a hit.
Yeah.
So and sometimes the song you think is going to be it is not the one. Sometimes it's just like that's kind of the whole thing that you have to kind of manage on your own, which is very hard to do. But it's like my favorite thing that my manager says about me, and what she had learned in the process of me informing her about where I was on the charts and what was going on and all this stuff. Then I was like, this is where we're at. And I tried not to I was in a weird place. Like I had a thing and then that didn't work out. And then so I was like, what do I do? But I was always working. Like I was always doing it. Like I was always updating. I was always, doing this. And then, one of my favorite quotes that my manager says is that she's like, the best part about Aaron is we have a lot to work on because he works harder than us.
Right.
Which is crazy. Just so you know, like that's, and they love me because
you do.
Like yesterday I called and I was like, hey, we need, what's going on here? Like we need, and they're like, yep, you're right. Your manager works for you.
Yes.
Right? Yes. That's what a lot of people misunderstand is that you are like, they are the CEO of your company, but it's still your company. It's still you that is driving the bus.
Exactly.
Always. So,
and I think a lot of times it's a bit of an ego thing for those greener artists who are like, they feel like they have to have a manager or have to have these things to validate how far they are or how serious they are.
100%.
And then that's where people
a lot of it is validation. For sure.
And that's where people sign the sketchy deals and get into like a relationship that's just not the right manager and not the right team.
And that's a huge part of it. Like, it's so huge. It's the validation thing is, and guess what? I hate to tell everybody, but we all have that same as artists. Even as a publisher, validation is what we are all after. We all want somebody to come and tell us that we are good enough. And guess what? You're good enough.
Yes.
You're different than everybody else. You are good enough. but it's when you don't hear that every day. It's so hard. Like I've been there. I know what that's like, but that is what we are all after.
Right.
And the bottom line is you don't need validation. You just need to believe. And I think that's one of the hardest things. It's the blind faith that holds a lot of people back. You need to have it.
People call it delusion.
Yeah, because some people call it delusion. And who wants that validity?
It's so true.
You are delusional.
And we don't get the certificate, or like you don't level up in like a system like you would as a vet or a doctor or a lawyer. It's like, it's not like, ta-da, you're level 3 now. It's like, no, you're still wandering blind in an industry where it's like, yeah, it's madness. And then even like, don't even get me started on the whole awards thing that's just voted for by peers, and it's like who likes who and all that bullshit. But
it's I mean, I hate to tell you, but we're all in a high school drama.
Yes,
you know, we are. It's all about, you know, even
soapbox on that one.
Yeah, we see it in Nashville all the time. Like we see other people like moving up, and we're like, what? Like, you know, they weren't even that good at the last job. And now they're getting promoted to another, and it's crazy. It's crazy how it works. But it is a lot of this is all about relationships. Right?
Yes.
Just what it is.
So speaking of beautiful relationships, look at that segue. So you two obviously, Victoria had explained you guys met obviously through the music scene, and recently you launched your new company. So tell us about that, because I was so happy when I saw that. Firstly, because I just think you two are awesome people. And I'm like, it makes me happy knowing that there are, first of all, people who actually know their shit when it comes to this stuff, who are working with emerging artists or working with artists who are putting out music. So people who are trustworthy and know what they're doing, versus like, this is a kind of TikTok, sign up on this and do that and give us all your money and we'll make you a star. I'm absolutely thrilled that you've started this company, because it's awesome. So tell us a bit about For the Record. How did it start? When did you come up with this idea? And you're like, what? We've just been sitting here together in the kitchen for 6 years and we haven't done this yet. What are we thinking?
It's kind of a funny story, and maybe I should let V tell more. But just the whole, like, we've done a lot of things over the years that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, because it kind of in a weird. I think I kind of started things before you got involved with it, but. There was a time where I was kind of at a job that was not going so well. But I had made really good friends with one of the writers at the company. We kind of were on the same page, and we were like, are these people crazy? Yes, and, but we're not. No. But we decided that he wanted to do more production, and I was like, well, I need some extra income work, so why don't we? And then also at the time, Aaron was getting approached by quite a few artists that were like, hey, do you want to produce this, or would you want to help me get this going? And Aaron couldn't do the work, so because Greg was his name, Greg Bates was looking for production work, and I was needing work, so I was like, why don't we team up? I'll, work with the artist, get them some rights. Maybe we find some songs, and then you can produce the record. And he was like, yeah, that sounds great. So we started doing that. And Josh Ross ended up being one of the people that we started working with. And Josh really found, I think we got to credit your mom on that one. Diane found a video. He covered one of your songs.
Yeah, he covered a song off my first record, and my mom found it and sent it to me. And it was really good. And we were like, awesome. Who is this kid?
So anyway, we met him and became friends and started helping him out. And just one of those things where we didn't know what was going to come out of it. But, so like Greg and I just started doing these little side projects. And I just remember thinking with Josh, like, this kid actually, he's got something, like he's on it. He's coming to us, like, what do we do now? So we just felt like he was going to do well, and he did. And, I'm not saying that we were the reason that he did well, but it just, like, we were kind of a part of that in the beginning, and we kept following him. And as I went from publisher to different places that I was working, I kept looking for opportunities to get him involved, and it never really lined up. And he did, but anyway, it never worked up for us to end up back working together. But he's gone off and done amazing things. Obviously, I'm super proud of that. But that's the kind of business like we had, and I like had a logo and a name, and just never really made it a public thing. And then ended up getting a different job and kind of moved away from it. And then this past year, was it this past year or is it now?
It's been almost a year, but
2 years ago.
And I think like and even at that time, just to add to it, like my schedule was so crazy. Like this was, I feel like this was before COVID, where we were just like, we were literally set up for the biggest year of touring, the biggest year. Like I was slammed, right? And so it was like, and then COVID hit, and then kind of all this stuff had happened. So then a year ago when V left Wide Open, she
I just found out that I was pregnant,
yeah,
and I was
found out we were having a baby, which was so great.
Yay.
She's amazing.
Yeah, so I was leaving Wide Open for various reasons, but just knowing that I was pregnant, gonna be have quite a bit of time on my hands, we were like, hey, why don't we go down this path again, add some more projects, and and so like. Yeah. I don't know. We just kind of started working on it.
And I basically, like, I'd reached out to people who had like asked me for songs, and reached out to people who had been in contact, or people that I produced before. And I was like, hey, V and I are thinking about starting this again. It's going to be a little different than the last time we did it. I've worked with a lot of artists over the years where I've like, they've come in, we've written 4 or 5 songs, then we went and cut them. Well, and this was kind of a gift, because as we did all that work, we got to see the results of some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't like, I wasn't jumping out of my chair like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I was kind of like at a place with some of them where I was like, man, we could have done way better than that. In my head. So that was kind of the gift of that. And then so then I was like, I mentioned to V, I was like, man, what if we just like did one song at a time?
Yeah.
And just like put everything, like all the knowledge that we know about the TikTok world and what reacts on that, and then all the knowledge that we have of like what a hit song is, and like what all that entails, and is there any hidden meaning behind the song? Is there more that people can dig into, rather than just like it being catchy or being, and then me, obviously, because I had Lonely Drum, and it's still one of the songs that it's like the gift that keeps giving. It's crazy what happens when a song, it's not even my song anymore. It's like everybody else's song. And so it's like, and I guess that's what I'm looking at when I'm talking about like what a hit is. Like when you need a hit, like it doesn't even necessarily mean it's like this big song on the charts. Maybe it will become that because it did well on TikTok or whatever. But like, I was looking at that song and some of the other things that I've had, and I was like, Lonely Drum crushes. Like, I have a new single out right now that is we're so excited about. Everybody's like thinks
it's a great song,
best thing I've ever put out, and Lonely Drum's crushing it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's had a few years in advance. It's had.
I mean, it does, and it has all that stuff, but still to this day, it's being streamed more than anything else. So I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, okay, what is it about that song? Like, what are the things?
What are those
that
elements
go into that, right? And so like, in us talking about all this, we were like, what if we did a one song at a time, where we just really focused on the song? We pitched that to some of these artists that I've done work with before, or some artists that V's talked to, or like whatever it is. And I just started pitching it and getting on the phone, and the response was like crazy. People are like, we're in. And we're like, okay. And we're like, what do we do now? How much do we charge even? Like we were just kind of like, at the beginning, it was really just like piecing things together.
And then we eventually did, like, we kind of worked on this basically for a year, and quietly, I guess, in a way. And then Robert Goss decides to release a song, and he was like, hey, I want to tag you guys. And we're like, I guess we should.
We don't even have a page for that. So then we're like, I guess we should launch this thing. So
it's still pretty dead. We kind of posted and ghosted, but we'll work on that.
We totally posted and ghosted.
To be fair, we have a lot of things that I think we're about to wrap up, and hopefully will be released soon. And so we'll be putting all of those out once we
lots of stuff.
Yeah, so, we'll have lots of content eventually.
So can you explain kind of in a nutshell kind of exactly what it is that you guys do? Like what what is it? How does it work from
so
walking in the door?
A lot of people get confused as to, they're like, is this a label, is this a, so basically this is a service-based, one song at a time production company. So our job is to A&R the record, right? So we're going to look for songs, we're going to set you up with co-writes if you want to write. We're going like, and very targeted co-writes, not just like, oh, you're coming to town and you know this writer, go write with them, see if you get a hit. It's like, no, the first thing that we do is you'll send us, the artist sends us a playlist, a set list if they play shows, like what shows are you playing, what songs are you playing live, and then inspiration kind of playlists, like what's your favorite stuff, like what's a song you wish you wrote right now, like what's your favorite thing on the radio right now, and we sort of piece all of that together, and then we choose a direction, right? And we're looking for like, maybe there's a hole in the marketplace that needs to be filled, maybe your stuff's like this but it's different because of this, and we're going to go in that direction. And so what we do then is we get all of that information together, and then we go and try and do a couple of targeted co-writes where we're like, let's say you want to write a super pop Kelsey Ballerini type thing. We're going to go to some of those writers and some of those people that are in that world, and we're going to be like, hey, we got this artist, we want to, I love to, I mean, I'm going to write the songs anyway, so I'm like, I'll join the write if you want me to. I also don't even have to be there. I don't like either way. The whole idea is like, we're getting the best shot at the best material possible. Right. We go in and write a couple songs, we get those back, we get some work tapes back from them, and then we're like, okay, is this working? Is this fitting? Is this what we want to do? Right. And then try and set up another co-writer. And this whole time we're firing songs to the artist and being like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? V has had a lot of catalogs in the past that she has worked with and still has those catalogs. A lot of those songs are kind of forgotten about. If they're a year old, they're definitely forgotten about. In Nashville, songs, I think when I was at Warren Chapel, they pitched songs for 2 weeks. That was the life of the song. Wow. If it didn't get some action in 2 weeks, it was gone. So there's a lot of songs, right? And then I've got a lot of back catalog. Between the catalogs that she worked with, we're firing off songs, we're looking for stuff in that world. And then so that's the first part of it, that's the A&R part of it. And then when the song gets finished, or we feel like we have the song, we don't choose where to go record or who to record with or anything like that until we have the song. Because we don't know until what we have is like, what kind of production does this need? Right. And then at that point we go, okay, this is kind of this pop thing, let's go over here and work with this person because they're going to crush it. That's the second part of it. So our job is literally from the kind of picking a direction, finding the song, to producing that song. So our whole package includes, like, at the end of that, you're going to have one hit song, hopefully. That is like you're going to have the mix, the master. That's where our work ends, like for the record. That's what we do.
I love that. So, Kate, what else can we share? What else do we want to talk about? What else we got going on? Aaron, your new song. Tell us about the new song so that we can get more streams on that.
It's called Your Time to Stay. I mean, I wrote it shortly after COVID and didn't even realize I was going through what I was going through when I wrote it. And we're just so excited. It's we've been playing it live for a while, and you can always tell a hit song because people are like, hey, what was that song you played that was like just piano and vocals? And people, it seems to really be hitting people. And there's a lot of, like, we've got quite a bit of radio play here in the US kind of already on stations, and they're on the secondary side, and they're like, this is Aaron's best thing. Like, they're so, like, it's testing very, very well. So we're super excited. Canada is, I think we're about to get some really big things going on with it up there, which is amazing. Nice. We're so pumped about that song. So.
Yeah, no, it's wild. Honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we have this conversation today and then I see you're like performing in like Red Deer or something this afternoon. Like, you do not sit still. It's
No,
like, honestly, there's times when
That'd be
I've like
fun.
been chatting with you and I'm like, I swear he was just in Nashville or Tennessee
I
and
was,
now he's back
I
in,
know. Well,
like,
and I do a
what
lot.
the heck?
Yeah, and then I'm also a part of a band called the 615 Collective, which
Yes.
is a lot of fun. We're touring. That's kind of checks the box for touring in the U.S. for me, because
Amazing.
it's opened up a lot of doors for me, even just as a solo artist.
Fun.
Like this whole thing, because that band is literally labeled as a bunch of solo artists that come together, in the style of the Highwaymen, basically.
Very cool.
And so it's really cool for us to be able to go out, play our own songs, and then have stuff that we do together.
I love it. Love it.
And then I'm writing all the time, and I always joke, like, on Your Time to Stay, I was like, me and my wife went through a lot of issues during COVID because I was home. So
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think we've been married for what, like 4 months before it happened, and we were like, well, if this ain't gonna break us, then here comes the test. So
people always ask how I do with the schedule, like him being on the road, and I think it takes a certain kind of personality, but I kind of like my alone time. Right now I don't really get alone time because I have a 10-month-old, but in general I'm like, great, he's home half the week, and then he's gone half the week. I dig it. And then I can sit on the couch and watch my shows and do my
there's not like murders on TV and cop shows and all that stuff. It's just straight up. What's your favorite thing now that you always watch?
I don't know. I mean, I watch a lot of comfort shows, really, rom-coms.
There's a lot of Friends on the TV all the time.
But I guess that's like, you knew what you were getting into. It wasn't like you both were like high school sweethearts and then suddenly he's like, you know what, I'm going on tour, and it's like, it's like Dewey Cox, hold the baby.
The music is kind of what brought us together, and I think like that was at that time, like for both of us, like I had never met anybody like her that knew the songs that I knew, and because we kind of grew up and we were like, we just loved music and songs, and then that kind of brought us together, and we started talking about, like, I still remember playing her this one Alan Jackson song that she didn't know about, and she like got a pillow and sat on the floor in the kitchen and just hit repeat like every time it would end. And I was like, wow, this girl really gets it. And so it's like, it was, and I was watching a Preds game while she was listening to it.
It's true, because I think you have to get it. So first off, if you want to be in the industry, you have to understand how hard it is. It isn't like you see the movies of like the tour bus and the parties and it ain't like that. And it's like if you want to survive, it's not like that.
It's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
No, one person actually said to me one time, like, oh, I bet the money's good. And I was like, when it's good.
When it's good, it's great.
It's not a secure line of work where what you're getting.
It's not the monthly.
We're actually incredible, I would say, because we have literally lived for the past 2 years not knowing when our next check was going to come. We've been
I was just gonna say, like, I haven't had like, well, she left her job and hasn't gone back and to anywhere, and then like to like a regular kind of publishing job, and then I haven't had a draw for this is probably the longest I've gone without a draw in 12 years or something like that, 10 years or something. So it's like, it's crazy. Like we are definitely in the wild west, but it's also kind of way more exciting that way. Like, definitely
more proud of ourselves.
And
we kind of look at each other like, I don't know how we got through that, but
I guess I come by it honestly. Like, my mom and I were having a conversation the other day about how my dad's like a carpenter. And so like their lives have always been like that. Like you work for yourself, and if you don't have a job, then whatever job to do, then you're kind of like waiting for the next big chunk of money to come in from some big job. It's kind of like, I'm the same way. When a gig comes in, we jump up and high five, and it's like, oh, cool, we're gonna pay our bills.
Totally. And it's so fascinating, just the assumption that if someone's heard you on the radio that you're in a big mansion and you got the jet and everything, it's like, it doesn't, like,
it's it's really, that's all possible and that's all wonderful and great, but there's only a small portion of artists that actually like a very small pyramid at the top that had like, you know, that where they're living those lives. And I think one of the things like for us is like where we kind of ran into trouble is like things were so good for a couple years that we just got used to, you know, buying the good meat at the grocery store, you know, and now we're hooked on it. We're like, we gotta get this tavern
no
ham.
name stuff
If
ain't cutting it.
Tavern ham, I don't know if I can live. And so it's like, you know, and like every time we leave the house, we still drink. We still stop and get a coffee, no matter where we are. I don't even care if this coffee is $7. We are buying it. And so it's like, you know, that does chip away stuff.
I love this conversation, and again, like, it comes back to when you started for the record, because it's like these people are friggin' genuine, they're honest, there's no ego, there's no bullshit, there's no promises of like rock stardom and all of that. It's like, actually, we can promise that you can just fasten your seatbelt and get on the roller coaster. Like, there's no guarantees where that thing's gonna break down.
And we're very upfront. Like, we are going to, like, there's a couple things that we'll do, like just because it's innate in both Victoria and I. We've had to work very hard to get to where we're at. What we don't know everything. Like but we want to be a part of somebody's or a lot of people's, you know, journey. And I think there's a lot of space in today's world where you don't need, like, there was a group that opened for Luke Combs at Country Thunder, Alberta. I still can't remember what their name was. They have 2 million monthly listeners and I've never heard of them. And they opened for Luke. And I was like, who is this? I don't even know who this is. So like, I think there's a lot of space out there where a lot of people can be successful if you do great work. And so I can promise you that we're going to work our butts off, because that's just what we do. It's kind of innate in us to like, we come home, we're tired, we're listening to songs, like we're like, okay, let's go through these songs and make, like, that's just, we work very hard at what we do. We can't guarantee that what is going to happen, like that it's going to happen for you, but we can guarantee that we're going to work hard and we're going to go after it and use our expertise and knowledge to try and give you the best chance at it.
Love it.
Right. That's what we will guarantee every time.
You can't get to that small section of the pyramid if you don't start at the bottom, though.
Exactly.
You know?
It's true. You do have to start.
And that's, I can't remember what it was. I was watching something or listening to a podcast or something the other day, and it's just stating the obvious of like, if you don't aim for the big goals and prepare to do the work for the big goals, how you're only going to hit the small stuff. Like, why would you even assume that you're going to smash a big goal if you're not working in that big goal mindset?
Yes.
But I also want to say too, I think some people miss, like, I mean, we worked with a friend of ours who was like, I want to be an artist. I want to do that. You know, we're like, cool. Like, you actually are good. You have what it takes. I mean, like, yeah, you're just getting started, but we think you could, you know, you've got what it takes. You just got to move to Nashville and get in the community and work your way up. And I think people see, like, they don't see the middle ground, and they don't see that there's like steps that you can take to get to where that top part is, and they just don't know a way in. And we've helped this guy go from having no career in the music industry to solely paying his bills in the music industry.
I love that.
And, you know, could you continue to go? Absolutely. But it's all about what you want too. Like, if that's all you want, if you want to just be able to play music for people, there's a way to do that. And you don't have to, like, say, you don't have to be Taylor Swift. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to get to that and a lot of people won't, you know what I mean? Like, that's a very, very, very high level. But it's like,
I don't even know if Taylor Swift wanted to be Taylor Swift.
I'd be interested to know what it's like being her right now. It's probably not the funnest, to be honest.
It's got to be crazy.
But
that's a really good point. And that was somebody who was like worked at a job, who played when he could, and I was like, if you want to play for do you want to just make a living doing music? Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Yeah.
So you take them from that, you change the mindset a little bit, and you get him to go after certain things and honestly just start him down the road, because that's all we really did. Now he's like fully self-supportive. I'm going golfing with him today.
Nice.
We're going golf. Like, he's got money to go golfing,
Nice, look
you
at
know,
that.
and he's like, this is awesome. And he takes it way more serious than I do. Like, he's really into it. But like, he's like this. Yeah, we're 117 yards. Then he's got the magnets up on the thing, and he's doing all this. He's got these gloves. He's taking his gloves off. They magnet up there. I'm like, good Lord, you have all the tools. But it's like, this is somebody who's like thought it was impossible,
right,
to do that, like to just make a living doing it, and now he does it almost like it's just the thing that he does. So
I love it.
It's like, you know, and he works hard for it, and he negotiates with people, and he gets people to pay him what he thinks he's worth, and he, you know, and so it's like, it's a lot of that stuff. So it does depend on what your goals are. It does depend on you know, and that's a conversation that we have. It's like, well, where do you want this record to go? Because like, if you want the record to be the biggest record of all time, it might take us a couple years to find this thing. Like we might have to work really hard to find this song and I'm always up for doing it if that's what the goal is. You know, so it's like, but it's like, it just really depends on where, you know, there's a lot of factors that come in when they want the single to go, or if they're patient, or if they want to go right away. Like there's a lot of factors that come into what song we choose. But you know, Robert went out, he did, you know, we got 60,000 streams in a couple months.
Nice.
That he was like, what? He couldn't believe that, you know, and with that, we, you know, not only produced the song, but we teamed him up with like a team that we put together for Canada and the US that will do the streaming campaign for it and pitch to Sirius XM. So you know, that's a total optional thing that he was like, I want to do it. I think what happens is when we do all this work for one song, then the mindset starts to change and be like, I gotta make this thing go because I've invested everything into it. And I think that energy is what really helps the artist to get behind it. And then they're 100% behind it. Like, they're not thinking, you know, we've went down all the roads. They're not thinking there's no other way, a better way, there's no better song, there's no, like, they're like, this is it, and I'm gonna go after it. And I think that is gonna help all of us in being successful.
So awesome. So do you think that it is necessary for artists to be out in Nashville? Do you think that's a very important step, or what are your thoughts on that?
I'm gonna let V answer that one. That's her question.
And it's so, in today's age, there's so much you can do online. So I wouldn't want anyone to use it as an excuse. Like, I'm not, you know, I can't be there, so like I can't do any of the, like, no, there's so much you can do. And I know for a lot of people, they don't, even some publishers and some people I've talked to, they don't care. Like, if they're interested in what you're doing, they'll make it work. And there's lots of people that'll Zoom. There's, you know, there's ways. So no, that said, I think it's a really, really big asset, and it's something that I would want to see for someone that I'm working with, especially in the beginning, because there's so like, it is a relationships game. And when you're, you know, out of sight, out of mind. That's exactly, like, you know, that's it. Like, you're not top of somebody's brain. But when and that's going back to Josh, like, something I think he did really well. We put him in some rooms, we opened some doors, but he really delivered on making those relationships. And at some point he started making relationships I didn't have. And, you know, and it's like, it's coming to town, it's finding a room, you know, and I know this is speaking to somebody that's young enough to, that, you know, is like, finds a roommate or whatever, but like, that's huge. Like, it could be, and you don't have to be that, I'm not saying you have to be young, but I'm just saying, like, if you're younger and you come to town and you meet a roommate and that person's in music too, who knows, that could end up being somebody that you still create music with, or maybe they have a friend that introduces you over here, and then somebody can call you last minute and go, hey, we got an opening spot for a round tomorrow night, do you want to jump in? Or this guy dropped out of our right, do you want to come join us? And the magic that comes from that is you can't replace that. Like, there's just nothing that beats that.
Yeah, and I won by being present because when I first moved to town, I started writing songs with a guy named Adam Sanders. He then brought me into a write with a guy named Cole Swindell, who at the time nobody knew who Cole was. He was a brand new writer at Sony. We went and wrote a song the one afternoon. Cole didn't want to turn it in because it was better than all his other songs, and he didn't want them to overlook his other songs. He finally turned it in. It got thrown. It was on hold for Luke twice. He ended up putting that song on his record. But had I not been, and then I went on to write some big cuts with Cole. Had I not been in town, that would never would have happened.
Right.
So it's literally like you don't have to be here, but it does help.
Yeah.
Like there's a writer in town who's crushing it, doing really great right now. Jordan Walker, and he's doing really great, getting all these like Luke Combs cuts and all this stuff. I wrote with him the other week, and we were writing, and he's like, "Yeah, I was out shooting ducks with Luke and Jordan Davis this weekend," and I was like, "Man, I wish I shot a gun because then maybe I could have been out there with him." But like, these are the people, like, because he's in those circles and he's hanging out with those people.
Yeah,
they're gonna look at his songs before they look at anybody else. It's just the way it is. So it's like being present. If you want to win on that level in Nashville is like, it's vital. Like you have to be here. But like, do you actually have to move to? It's all about what you want in your circumstances.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people that don't have the. It's like I worked with a writer for a couple of years that lived in Texas and made trips to Nashville because he was a single father and he had to be in Texas, and totally makes sense. Like, and I think we got a lot of momentum even when he was in Texas. He was very clearly committed to doing things here, and that makes a big difference, and being a part of this community. But if you were to ask me if we could get things done a lot quicker with him being here, we certainly could have. But you have to look at your own circumstances and what's right for you. Absolutely. And go from there. But certainly to wrap that all up, yes, being in Nashville is a huge asset, and if you can do it and you really want to, like, absolutely.
I think if we were going to work long-term with another artist, they would have, like, if we were to kind of attach ourselves to some artist that we believed in, they would have to be here. And we would be working with them on a daily basis to get them in the, so like that for us, that's what we would ask and what we would need. And we actually have before, because we've ran into artists that we produced that we're like, we love, but it's like some of them are like, well, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to do this. And we're like,
right. Okay, on the flip side, I will say there's a lot of people who have lived in town, have a lot of connections, a lot of relationships, and then moved away and now make trips, and they do that beautifully.
Yeah.
But because the work itself is not something that has to be done here, but it's the relationships and the presence that you want to build.
Yes. And then as well on the flip side too, because we looked at that, is that validation and that ego thing of like, there's a lot of people that you hear, I'm moving to Nashville. And that's like, just because you've got the postcode doesn't mean that you've made it. Like it's the living in Nashville does not mean you have made it. So, and you
signing a record deal doesn't mean you've made it either.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true.
And it's kind of you spend all this time getting to get to that place where you got that, and that's just really when the work begins.
Yes.
Like nothing is.
Yes. Now these
it's
are
a
all
chance.
It's incredible accomplishments, and everyone should stop and be proud of themselves. But you still have to work after you get those things.
Absolutely.
You don't want that to be the finish line for sure.
And I think having, again, those relationships, another question that comes up all the time is like, well, how do I get in these rooms for these rights? How do I do all of this? And just to purely selfishly self-promote our brilliant idea that we have coming up in June is like, build that relationship. Don't sell your house and move to Nashville blind. Come to this retreat, meet 15, 20 other artists like yourself, get those connections, work with Victoria and Aaron, like work with people, like build that connection. Like you guys might chat with one of the artists on the retreat and be like, holy shit, this person has, let's go. Or also like, you're not quite there yet. Don't sell your house and quit your job. Like, but these are the things that you can do to get, like, So this is the
I don't recommend anybody do what I did, which is I moved to get away from I had a work visa and I had to get away from this girl I was dating. That's literally, I'm not even making that up. Like, I had to get as far away as possible, and I was like, well, I have this work visa and I know a lot of people in Nashville, so so I was like, I'm gonna go. But at that time I had taken trips for 6 years. Like, I took a lot of trips when I moved. I knew it was somewhere where I wanted to be. I mean, I had to wait. I had to get the circumstances to line up, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing.
Definitely lay the groundwork. Don't just, pack it all up and leave tomorrow.
But I will say, like, you think you're like, well, I don't know anybody, and I don't know, like, that literally can change in a week. In this town, it can change in a week, and it's just a matter of you getting in, maybe playing some rounds, getting to know some people, because if you've moved to town this week, like my drummer, we moved to Nashville the same year.
Okay.
Like, and we're still together. He's been with me for 10 years. Like,
I love it.
But we met there. Like, we met by playing in rounds and doing this stuff. And then he really liked me. So he just tried to, like, hey man, if you ever need a guy, and he just stayed on me. Yeah. And now we tour together in Canada. We tour all over the world together. Yeah. So it's like, you don't know who you're going to meet. You don't but what's great about Nashville is you're there with other like-minded people. Yes. If you're there by yourself there's 10 other people that are out going out tonight that are in the same boat. Yeah. So it's like, it's just about going out and meeting people and connecting yourself with others, which is what it's all about anyway.
Love it. Well, I am so excited. I know now I'm kind of mad at myself that we organized this so far out, because it's like, now we have to sit and wait. It's all good. But yeah, I'm so excited for next summer, and just what you guys can bring to the table for artists who are wanting to do exactly what it is that you help artists do. So I think it's really important. And of course, if you're listening, I'll put all the information for the retreat in the notes, but in the meantime, please check out what Aaron and Victoria are doing with For the Record, and just, see, lay the foundation, start doing the work now, and then who knows. So For the Record Biz is the Instagram, and that's the best way for people to reach out. You guys are mainly just sort of Instagram for now.
We've been so focused on the work that we haven't done any other.
Well, that's honestly,
we've been word of mouth.
And it's been really
that's
great.
That's a good sign.
We've been working with a lot of really great artists, and it's so cool because I feel like all of them have a shot. There's no, everybody's got a shot at this. You do, but if you create a great record and great music, honestly, we don't know what's going to blow up tomorrow. Yeah.
It's amazing. And that's the fun part. That's the scary, fun, crazy world of music. So yeah.
And we loved it. And the best part is that after we're done with one, we can just do another one.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Oh, you guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. You're awesome. We love you, and we can't wait for Invermere. It's going to be so much fun. I'm hoping that we can be in maybe Eloise, maybe the whole family can come out and hang out in that beautiful part of the world for a few days. So
it's gonna be awesome. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time, and I can't wait to see you in person again, and if not before,
sooner than later, I'm sure.
We'll see you guys very soon, and thank you so much for everything. You guys have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you do leave a review, it's really useful to help others discover the show. You can also check out the weekly vocal workout over on Patreon. I'll leave the links in the show notes, where you can access weekly vocal training from yours truly and totally rock your voice. Thanks again for listening. Check out Rockit Vocal Studios on social and on the web, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.